Lucy Pyre here knows the truth behind the Final Fantasy XIV streamer and TOS crackdown. Let's see what Lucy Pyre's truth is. Disclaimers: this was kinda just me rambling my half-baked opinions on the TOS crackdown. Whoa. Okay, so right away you're telling me this is not the truth, but this is your opinions? Half-baked nonetheless? Alright, I can live with that. Other streamers such as Xenosis Vex have more extensive breakdown of the topic than I do. But if you just want to gist
Before
of
I get into my
things,
rant,
okay.
I have to let you all know I have no add-ons whatsoever. I've
Liar.
never had any add-ons.
Liar.
I have no idea what
Liar.
even is. What is that? A fucking standardized test? Is that a disease? Is that something I should know about? Well, either way, I don't fucking have any clue. Sunchild June, is that a monitor you're using right?
It's third-party
That
add-on.
sounds kind of third-party to me. Fuck, they're right. I have a third-party tool I'm using right now. Shit, report me. I deserve it. Xeno's already went into how the
I mean, we're technically also using Twitch, which is a third-party add-on, in which people can tell you live what to do. You know.
the wording of their announcement was sort of super duper vague. And it's understandable why it's vague. It would take them forever to sit down and list everything that they approve and everything that they don't approve. Plus,
No, it won't. I don't think it will. There's literally only so many add-ons. Like, hey, UI add-ons? Yeah, that's fine. These specific add-ons? Yeah, that's not fine. I honestly, if they just go with these specific add-ons will get you banned. Why do you have 12 mails? Check your mail, girl. Check your mail. Anyways, if if they just listed the add-ons that they're saying these are the most problematic and these are the ones we are paying attention to the most, or something like that, in like not specific those words, but like a more diplomatic way to say you're gonna get fucked if you use these, and list those add-ons, I don't think it would be that big of a deal for them to do that. There's really not that many add-ons that are game breaking or like give you an advantage.
it's a problem for them if they approve something in general, right? They can't just come out and say, yeah, I don't give a fuck if you parse DPS. I don't care. Go ahead, use
But they
ACT.
do.
It's an approved tool. They can't just do that. Here's the thing.
Yeah,
It,
obviously
it
not on
really
ACT.
grinds my gears. The person that they banned, that they made an example out of, right? They banned him in the middle of his DSR.
Okay, so technically you're right, but also they were nice enough to wait for them to wipe. So give credit where credit is due.
Didn't they? Here's the thing about that. That's just horrible.
Is it?
That's just horrible because as far as I know, his violation was he had an add-on that was visible on his stream and somebody reported him for it. And so the Final
No,
Fantasy XIV response was not simply
that's not what it was. It was very specific add-ons that help you with the raids. Namely, I believe it was the call out the abilities and the DPS meter, which Yoshi P really hates. Now, were the reports? Yeah, sure, probably. The thing is, the GM that showed up was a real person, and he took into consideration, like, yeah, there are reports and whatever. He got to the bottom of it to an extent, and he checked, and he confirmed the ban. It's not like it was an automatic ban. So there was involvement by Squeenix about this. Now, the other thing is, if it was a different GM, maybe he wouldn't have gotten banned, right? It's like there is the human aspect to being a GM and stuff like that. However, all the person like, why is he showing his DPS meter? Right? And again, I get it, but it's like, why are you showing your DPS meter? Like, let's like be like complete idiots, right? Why would someone show the DPS meter on a prog? He's not checking his DPS meter, and if he was, he doesn't need to show it either. Like, if he has a death, what do you call it? Like a death log, why he died or whatever. He doesn't have to show it. He can review it on the side, like all these things, and like he can discuss them, right? It's like, oh, I died to this, whatever, even though he knows exactly by a death log. By a death log, he doesn't really have to say that he's using it. It's like, oh yeah, I got hit by this, I got hit by this ability, and it's like whatever, and no one can prove that he's using add-ons. The thing is, it's like people got so ballsy when it comes to add-ons, knowing full well that the dev team really doesn't want you to use them for years, right? The problem is right now the game got so popular that it's I would say it's probably getting out of hand how many people are using add-ons and how prevalent it is, and people literally say I don't give a fuck um about what the devs team says. We are all going to use add-ons, and even all these guides are like, this is how to install this and this add-on, but just so you know, you might get banned for it. Like all the guides say that you might get banned for it, no one cares because they know, and even the guides say usually it's like you might get banned for it, but let's be real, if unless you use it to harass somebody, no one ever gets banned for it. So I think like the devs just like, okay, like this is getting out of hand, it's too much. There's just too many people on right now. Like not that there's like it's a problem that there's too many people, but it's like there's so many people that's like we need to like solve this before this gets out of hand. And I think that's what they did. Now Ultima, in my opinion, Ultimate is probably like not the best time to do it. They probably should have done it earlier. But during Ultimate, the problem is like when people were streaming the Ultimate, that's when you had the most viewers and the most people watching Final Fantasy at the same time, amongst many different streamers. So you had a lot of eyes on these people, and everyone was using similar add-ons. That's practically advertising add-ons, and I don't think the devs really want that.
To say, oh, we're currently investigating these things. We're investigating, you know? We didn't have to take someone out of the middle of their prog. And you know, this is the type of person who not only is invested in your game, but helps other people become invested in your game as well because they're a big streamer, right? So you're out here just handing out a 10-day ban
Yeah.
while they were
Again,
on.
I don't agree that the ban should have been 10 days, 3 at most, and honestly, maybe just a 1 day, really. Just kind of like, if you really just want to make him as an example, 1 to 3 days at most. Like 10-day ban is too much.
Stream for someone who is a hardcore raider.
Again, it has to be on stream only because they can't detect it. So if you don't show it, they can't. They don't know.
Clearly cares about your game, cares about sharing it with other people. And your response was not, I should wait a month and I can give like an obligatory like 3 day suspension just to sure people know we're still enforcing the rules. They could have done that. Instead, they chose to immediately suspend for 10 days.
Yeah,
I just don't
punishment
understand
was a
why
bit
they
too
chose
much for
this
sure.
timing. And the people, yeah, that's another thing, Dark Archer. The people.
The reason they chose this timing, again, in my opinion, is because there were a lot of eyes on this. So they, again, it's the best. It's also the best time to make a point. There's a lot of eyes on this, and it's like you're gonna get banned, and all these people now will have second thoughts about getting add-ons.
Mass reporting. Why are we not talking about how that itself is possibly more toxic than anything I've seen any elite, hardcore, parsing, whatever the heck kind of raider doing? Mass reporting someone just because you saw an add-on on their stream is far worse than someone subtly implying that your DPS is bad. Yeah, no. I also don't think stream.
I mean, it's subjective. I agree with her, but it's subjective. It depends how the system handles it. Mass reporting someone doesn't mean anything if there's no auto ban involved. If let's say people are mass reporting and the GM gets involved and he's like, oh yeah, no, that's fine, and then nothing happens, the people who are mass reported might get the punishment, right? It's like if there's nothing to report, people won't mass report, right? Again, now, if you do nothing wrong, whatever, it's kind of like when you're driving on the highway and you're not doing anything wrong, but like you see a police car and you're like getting nervous. That's not a good feeling. I don't think that's how streamers should feel if they're like it's like that's kind of what it feels like. It's like, oh, there's a streamer here, like fucking report the motherfucker. I don't think that's a good thing for the game as a whole. I don't think that should be a thing. I think what should happen is if someone is reported, because they don't have an automated report system and there's actually a GM involved, if someone gets reported, there should be a cooldown before someone else can report that person. There's no need to have 50 to 1,000 people reporting somebody instantly. Having one person, then everyone who reports him after get a message that's like this person has recently been reported would be enough. given that the GMs are actually looking at these reports. If they're not, and there's an automated system, that's different. But as far as I can tell, from what I understand, Squeenix actually has people who are looking at the reports.
Streamers should get special treatment. However, it's a little bit like it's the opposite, because for a regular person, they're never gonna have their screen shown, like in a public setting, right? So it's the people who are never gonna have their mods visible to anyone else
Exactly.
that are never gonna get reported. So it's
Yeah,
really
100%.
streamers who will suffer the most from this sort of thing. And I get it
Yes.
if people care less about that because, oh, it's a streamer, it could never happen to me. That's fine. I get it. Before I became a streamer, I probably would have thought the same way. But for me, it's just the sort of principle of the matter that we have a
I mean, I still
community
think the
that
same
bands together
way
not to do
while
nice
trying to be a
things, but
streamer.
to mass report streamers because they're checking their own DPS, and you can see it on the
That's
screen.
sick.
That's something that the devs have indirectly supported with this move. I understand, and I don't wanna pretend that I know everything that
Well,
goes on like in the decision making, because obviously I'm not a game dev, right? I can't know. It's out of my reach. But I feel like the proper response to these reports was to do nothing. Because how are you gonna suspend a guy?
uh, no, I don't think that's the proper response. I think it's a shitty response, but it had to happen at some point. I don't think Ultimate should have been it, but also Ultimate was the best time to do it. Again, once you have the most eyes on something, is the best time to do something, in my opinion, because it sends a better message. Not a better, but it sends a bigger message, right? That's all it is. Like that, did this flare up the community? Yeah, sure, whatever. They'll get over it in a week or two, but like the message was sent pretty clearly, and the people's response is a good example of why it was sent really clearly.
And then put a message in your announcement that you're interested in having your own UI additions that are in.
Again, that kind of sucks, and yeah, it probably, like, they would not improve the UI or have that message if people were not using all these add-ons. But it's the same as like weed would not be legalized if people were not smoking weed so much, even though it was illegal, you know?
Inspired from these mods that people are using. So you're fine with stealing their idea. You're fine with taking their idea. You're not fine with people using it in the meantime while you don't have that implemented in your game. Okay. Yeah, I don't get it. Once again, I feel like there are some people in the creator sphere who are having opinions just to have opinions, and we seem kind of split. I don't know. I'd say like 60% of people don't like this new TOS.
I haven't seen any content creator that likes the TOS. Like when it comes towards it goes towards like this subject. Other stuff in the TOS I think was fine, but like when it goes towards this subject, it looks like I haven't seen the 40% that she's talking about that is like okay with the TOS. I've seen only like people who are not okay with TOS. Because if you say like, oh well, the people who are using G-Shade, whatever, no, G-Shade and stuff like that is also technically in the TOS that it's illegal. I think people just like taking shit out on streamers and like making the streamers suffer a bit. Though, in my opinion, if a streamer is successful, a 10-day ban is like a blessing because now they can like play other games.
Hammer dropping, I suppose, and then 40% are defending it. I just want to put my own 2 cents out there, not for clout purposes, but because I actually care about this sort of thing. I don't feel like this is something we should be encouraging. I don't think that people who parse are nearly as toxic as people make them out to be. And
I don't think that's the reason. It's like the people who parse are not the toxic ones. The mentality around parsing is what's toxic. The whole parsing sphere is toxic. It's not the individual people, it's the thing about parsing that is toxic. It's like the activity is toxic even if the people that are doing it are not. And again, toxic is again very subjective, right? So it's like the whole point in this is that they like don't want this mentality in their game. That's all it is. The mentality itself is toxic, right? And again, the whole thing about parsing is like the only way to get parsing is to clear the boss. So if like you're gray or you're purple or you're legendary, like yellow, it doesn't matter. It means you killed the boss. So who cares?
I say that as someone who started this game, I started in 2015, and
Yep.
this was when I was playing on the PS3, PS4. I couldn't parse, obviously. I couldn't even know my own damage. I have never been griefed over my damage. No one has even mentioned my damage to me.
That's mostly because they would get banned if they did. If you play any other game where the devs were not against harassment as much as Squeenix, you would like they would say something. That's not again. That's not the problem with it. Let's just say it like this: in my static, when we were doing prog, we were using DPS meters. We didn't tell the people they're doing bad DPS. We just said we're gonna look for other people for the static because they were doing like 2 to 3,000 less DPS than our average DPS, right? Like the fourth person was just like not pulling out DPS. And it's not like he was like buffing people. It wasn't like a dancer or I don't know, a ninja or whatever, whoever can buff others. It's like I think it was like a machinist or something like that. And it's like, bro, how are you not doing damage? How's your damage so low? And then we looked at the gear, and like the guy is like, not only is he not prepared, like he has no what's it called, no melds. He has like he wasn't prepared for raid. He just like thought, like, okay, whatever, I'll join the static, whatever, fine. I'll I'll pretend to put in the effort, and he didn't, and we kicked him. And the DPS was what gave it away at first, because we didn't like inspect him hardcore. We kind of trusted the guys, like he said he had experience and whatever, and we're like, okay, fine, we're gonna trust you. The DPS gave it all away. He was getting hit by mechanics. He didn't do research on the fights, and like his DPS was shit the whole time. And like we felt like we were carrying this guy, even though yeah, he did probably enough damage at least for the first two bosses. We couldn't clear the third boss because of the ads, and the guy kept getting hit by mechanics more often than everyone else. But the damage was literally, if let's say all of that was still happening, but his damage was like pop damage, no one would care, right?
The worst thing that I've ever heard was someone saying our damage is not high enough to clear XYZ trials. And then
Yes,
that
that's all they can say. Let me tell you, if the guy who's doing 10k DPS and everyone else is doing 8, 7, and 6, he is gonna say our DPS and not say all three of you need to get better. Of course, he's gonna say that. First of all, no one wanna play with this guy who's doing 10k DPS and blames his team, even though it's correct what he's saying, right? Like no one wants to play with a guy like that. I know no one wants to play with me.
person leaving, which honestly, is that supposed to hurt me? It doesn't target me. It doesn't single me out. I've never heard anything that was
It does.
targeted.
It does if you knew your DPS. If you knew your DPS, it would single you out. If everyone knew the DPS at that time, it would single you out. You would be saying, "He means me." He says ours, but he means me.
At me or even other people. I can say whatever I think. I can have my own opinion. I can say I've never been griefed by anyone over my damage and that I'm serious. It's not because I'm just so good at the game or anything, because I'm not. It's because people don't do that in this game. You're lucky if anyone types in chat at all. Ultimately, Yoshi gonna do what Yoshi does. What Yoshi
Yeah, again, but because they know the consequences. It's like, well, everyone is happy in this game because no one is allowed to say negative things. Yeah, no, that's not how it works. Like people vent their frustration one way or another. It's like they just can't do it here, they'll do it somewhere else. But it's like right now, for example, if you play League of Legends, you better mute your fucking chat. Meanwhile, in the background, you can be yelling at your fucking monitor, smashing your desktop, cursing your fucking team, but as long as you're not doing it in game, you're not gonna get banned.
want. All I can do is sit here and disagree and say to myself, this is encouraging bad behavior from the community. It's not as if the person was griefing anyone.
And also, when people say it's like bad behavior from the community, this is like the tiniest fraction of the community that actually cares about. I would say most streamers they care about to an extent. They care about enough to make a video about it. But let's be real, this is content. This is free content given to them by Squeenix, and they're having a blast with it. I think Zepla made like 2 or 3 videos about this. Xenos made 2 or 3 videos about this. Like Arthur's made I think 2 or 3 videos as well. Like everyone's making videos about Desperius now joined the fray. Ginger had like 4 or 5 videos about this already. This is free content, man. Like, the streamers are happy this is happening to an extent. Like, this is a blessing in disguise.
Stream, was it? It just feels completely unnecessary. Never had anyone attack anyone for damage, but had a couple of tanks fall to their anxiety and lash
I'm
out at
not
others.
gonna.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I already talked
usually
about
things that
this.
are completely independent of third-party tools that cause toxicity in this video game. I understand the situation, and wow, I get it. I get why they come out and they say we don't allow third-party tools, because that means they never have to like design an encounter with those in mind, right? What I don't understand.
No, I mean that's a bonus, yeah, but it's also, well, I mean, I guess that's the main point. Yeah, fine. Like the toxicity is extra, but it's like, yeah, I would say it's easier to design fights that are more realistic for people if the add-ons are disabled.
Is why they're taking action in such a visible and I suppose aggressive way against
Well, I already said this before, but because it's visible, that's exactly why.
people who are actually helping their game in the long run. And also, I was going to say, I feel that add-ons add
Also, I'm not gonna lie, like, this argument that's like it's helping the game in the long run, technically, in my opinion, what they did with this ban is bad for the short run, but it's really good for the long run, right? Because they're like they're showing their hand. They're like, we are not going to accept add-ons anymore. And also, when they say that it's like banning streamers, okay, very select few streamers have been banned, and let's be real, the ones who contributed to the growth of Final Fantasy the most were like 4 or 5 streamers that moved from WoW to Final Fantasy. And I'm not saying that it's like, oh well, thank these streamers that they came and brought all these people. That's not what I'm saying. But to say that's like if they ban 1 or 2 streamers, it's like it's hurting the game in the long run. I really don't think so. If they ban like half the streamers for Final Fantasy, it's probably not gonna hurt the game as much as what those people who came to Final Fantasy helped it. Like they would still be in a massive surplus just because of that. Obviously, they don't want to lose players. That's why they didn't ban Xeno right away. They didn't ban Arthur's right away. They know they're using add-ons.
add a new layer to the game that give it replayability and more fun. Just hypothetically, right?
Also, by the way, if I'm not mistaken, sorry, I keep pausing like fucking pause champ. If I'm not mistaken, the main issue, the guy who got banned was on the Japanese server, I believe, right? Let's see here real quick. The guy who got banned was on the Japanese server, where they actually have laws against like manipulating the IP or something like that. Okay, so, and I don't think anyone in the US got banned yet, as far as I know.
Because I've never done this before, if I were able to see my damage, right? And I was leveling my job, and I noticed over time myself improving on that number due to changing my rotation. Theoretically speaking, I would feel a lot more confident in my gameplay. I would
Yes, DPS meters are a good way to gauge if you're doing more damage. But another thing you can do, like, so here's the thing: you don't need to see other people's DPS to do that. So if people were advocating for like, I just want DPS meter for myself, I would be like, honestly, I don't see why they wouldn't add that into the game. You can just see your own DPS. You can't see other people's DPS. I would say that's fine. That would be a good like in between. That, I think that's fine. You can't see other people's DPS. You can see yours. The other thing is, here's a good way to know if you're doing enough damage. So first of all, for all content except for Savage and Ultimate, you don't need to do enough DPS. It's not an issue. In order to do Savage, you have the NPC guy that tests you on a dummy. You can clear that. You should be able to do the Savage. You can clear the Ultimate, and honestly, in my opinion, doing that. So you know how like to unlock P2S, you need to do P1S. I think, in my opinion, what should be, if you kill P1S, you also need to do the dummy to do P2S. If you can kill the dummy for P2S, then you can do the P2S. I don't know how it works for healers. I know for tank and DPS, it's pretty much damage. For healers, it's I'd never checked. So
feel myself improving. I would feel more satisfied. This is to say nothing. Nothing about other types of add-ons, such as visual add-ons, which, yet again, also do nothing to people who are playing the game and have nothing to do with toxicity. I think the biggest issue to come from this is the amount of toxicity and sheer meltdown the community has faced. Their attempt of making a stronger, united community has resulted in arguably what will become its biggest split point. Yeah, Radgrave Tony, I'm shocked by how much this has like blown up the community.
Not
How
really.
much people are talking about this
Again,
right now.
on Twitter, yeah,
I
but
just
like
saw everyone discussing it, and I was like,
literally
shit. I was
for 2
thinking
weeks.
people would just ignore this for the most part, or be like, stupid streamer. I'm really surprised that this became as big of an issue as it became. Just for what it's worth, I am on the side of people who are in favor of kind of just leaving third-party tools alone. Just doing your best not to acknowledge them, not to worry about them. There's no way people are going to stop using third-party tools, right? There's no
Right.
way. And Final Fantasy XIV knows that. It's basically just
100%.
a point where if a streamer slips up and something shows on the screen because they forgot to turn something off for a stream, or they had something in a YouTube video,
They won't get. They probably won't get done for that.
People need to be super careful because we have a community that is just happy to go completely trigger happy and just report happy. I don't like that. I don't like that vibe. So I am
Again, that's not.
this blows
It's
over
not the
really
community though. It's like it's mostly it's. Well, again, first of all, the community was already divided because you have different people who are doing different stuff in the game, right? So it's like you have the people who are just building houses and they don't like other people. Like that's usually how it is, right? So I'm not saying all of them, but it's like you're gonna have these like clicks. Um, so you already had that division. Now, what you're seeing here is only because Final Fantasy grew at such a fast pace that that's why you see this happening. If Final Fantasy didn't grow as fast, as big, it probably wouldn't be that big of a deal. And again, one toxic person in a room of like very kind people will eventually turn the whole room toxic. That's just how it is. So you don't need many toxic people to make this into a very toxic thing. Just because only a few toxic people will make other people react, and then you're gonna have a war. Even people who had like no opinion about this will might want to participate, and they will have to choose a side.
soon, and that they don't take this much further than they already have.
Spending Square going after streamers using UI add-ons are people who have #gposer in their Twitter profile and use RP mods. Great community hypocrisy. It's a power trip, plain and simple.
Hey, yo, listen, my add-ons are fine. See, that's the perspective. My add-ons are okay. I have a Fuda add-on.
See, the thing is, like, and this is where the division would start. The people who are using these add-ons, like the G shader, whatever, they'll be like, the people who are using the DPS ones and getting banned for it are ruining it for the rest of us. I mean, this division would happen regardless. It's like you can easily say Squeenix is the one dividing the people, but no, that's not it.
But you have an add-on that tells you what your number is in the game, and that's worse. Add-on for me? Not for thee. Why is it necessary to use anti-TOS third-party stuff to have hats as Viera and Rockar? The winner for me! You said it! I wasn't gonna go there, but you came out and you said it! Thank you. Thank you for being the voice for me. Here's the fucking thing. We have been waiting for 2 years. If not, no. Has it been longer? Has it been longer at this point? 2-3 years in the middle of that somewhere? Over 90% of the hats in this game are not wearable by 2 races and 3 genders. Obviously, female Hrothgar are not going to be able to wear hats either. Like, that's a given. And not only that, but your hairstyles for the Hrothgar, the new Hrothgar hairstyles, that was insulting. That was borderline insulting. I saw them and I thought to myself, yep, looks bad, but I guess Hrothgars are used to it. But then I went to the official forums and people were super fucking magi. And I'm like, as you should be.
Alright, that was kind of funny, especially at the end. Alright, that was a video by Lucy Pyre. Lucy Pyre, yeah. She actually has like kind of funny videos usually. I think I watched like a few before, and it's not too bad. It's watchable, guys. It's watchable. It's pretty good videos. All right.